Oh, he's on the front. He's boss.
We're so pleased to have such a large group here. All our honorees that are any of our honorees here that we presented certificates to?
I don't think
No,
so.
they
They
left.
all took off.
We have to beat
That's
the weather.
Weather.
Yeah.
Well, I'm
And they were here
pleased
last night.
to reconvene. You said something I've done wrong?
No,
When
no, I
Linda
said,
looks at me and shakes her head, I know
no,
I'm in trouble.
I was just thinking how wonderful it was to have them last night and today.
And it's wonderful to be here. We had a great banquet last evening, and we're grateful to be here. Mr. Alan Baker, who is our representative who lives in Bruton, and is it Bruton's in whose school district? Whose district?
It's yours.
Bruton.
Johnny's.
I asked, you're not paying attention. So,
I didn't hear the gavel thing.
Mr. Alan Baker is a distinguished member of the legislature. He's been a member of the legislature for quite a number of years. And actually, we went on a trip to Salt Lake City on educational issues, and Mr. Baker was there, and we were so pleased to have him there. And I've had several conversations with him, and
He's coming across the street right now. I just talked to him.
all right, well, I'm stalled long enough. Well, since I've stalled long enough, we're all so proud of the Southeastern Conference's performance.
Yeah. I think you have a Georgia.
And the University of Alabama won
Right here.
the Sugar Bowl, the most
That's right,
prestigious
well
Sugar
done.
Bowl.
Well, that's true.
And,
But
I'm an Auburn fan.
and Auburn won a basketball game recently, so
we've won several, 13, I believe.
I said recently. But I would be remiss without recognizing the new national champion
Oh, you could.
is from the Southeastern Conference, in a school that's not too far from us.
So you serve on the Georgia State Board of Education now?
I pay enough, Georgia, to be on the state board. But actually, I've stalled long enough, Dr. Manning.
Well, can I say, while we're waiting on Mr. Baker to come up, I know the governor had to get out in a hurry this morning, so we skipped our report. But I do have, just so you know, and we want to share it with you. I don't know if we have time this afternoon. I'm going to ask for it now because I also know we're watching the weather. But Bart Reeves is with us because it is School Board Recognition Month, and had we done the report, I was going to recognize Bart, and they have a video that AASB's put together to honor our local and state board members. So at least we're going to share that with y'all. I wanted to say too, of course, congratulations to Dr. Shields. We're thrilled that she's in this new role. Everybody around the table is as concerned as she is, and I am, and Ms. Martin, that we replace her with a clone because we need that same level of expertise and urgency in school improvement. But we will. So she's gonna. One of the things we're going to do is we're going to take that section with her. So she will still oversee school improvement. We're going to get but she's not going to be having to do it day to day. We got to get her an excellent person to do that work for her. But I'm very excited about that work. Y'all know we posted yesterday the other assistant superintendent that left us more recently, Mr. Roller's job. And we've had some calls. We've had we'll take that. We'll leave it open. Doesn't say it's an open-ended posting, but a couple of you have asked me, and so I wanted to say publicly, and this gives me a chance. We're going to leave it open for at least a few weeks. My ideal timeline would be that by this time, say the middle of February, that everybody who's interested I will have heard from and had a chance to talk to, and would bring you a recommendation in the March meeting for someone that could then maybe start. Maybe start as early as March or April, but you know, we're going to have some sitting superintendents interested. I know that, and so I shouldn't say I know. I expect it.
Can
And
board
so
members apply?
board members can apply if they get their certificate updated. But we want to make sure that we give, that person may not be able to start immediately, obviously, if we hire somebody outside the department. So we don't want to put a school district in the lurch. We hire somebody from one of the districts. But that part is moving along. So both of those jobs we're in the hunt for right away. And then while Mr. Baker, so he can take a deep breath, he may want a cup of coffee, we're gonna pull you right in the middle. But I do want to say that a couple of you have asked me about the weather. I know y'all are looking at the weather on your phones. We did, while we were in the meeting, we did get put under a tornado watch, and the level of urgency has been raised for central Alabama, basically Birmingham to Montgomery, significantly. So we'll be watching it. We obviously have protocols we go through here in the building if we go under a warning. But the afternoon, if y'all want to adjust around, we can do whatever works for you. We will be watching it though, and I know a couple of you have told you you may want to either get out ahead of it, or you may want to wait till it passes, but we will follow your lead on that. And then the last announcement I kind of have is about the inauguration. I know that, of course, 4 of you or 3 of you at the table with me are inaugurated or sworn in during the inauguration. Miss Manning's with us this morning. She'll be sworn in. Everyone was invited to some of the events, though. You should have, if I could just touch Dr. Richardson's, you should have gotten a green envelope either from me or Miss Nora or in the mail. If you don't have it, you don't have it by tomorrow, please give me a call because I will work with the inauguration committee. I've been on the phone with them every day this week, and to make sure that you get all of your credentials and that there are no issues on this weekend, Monday. It is a holiday, so the state offices will be closed, and you are welcome to park inside this parking deck. Gordon Person's building will be closed, but your credentials will work even when the building's closed. So you can park here, you can come in here to freshen up, use the restroom or whatever you like. So that will be, your key card will work like it normally does for you and your families all during the day. But I don't know, I need to read my map thoroughly, but the buses that will be taking you to events, I think are going to be on the other side of the Capitol. So if you park here to catch the bus, you may have a long walk to where the bus is. So I think they're on the other side, but we'll confirm that and make sure that you're, but again, you can come in and out all you want to during the day. And this is one, I just hate to say this, but there's ongoing construction here in the building as they're renovating. We've not had hot water in this building in 2 days, so if you wonder what's wrong with the hot water, it's just off. And it was off all day yesterday, and it was still off this morning. So I don't know why we expected it to be back on by this morning, but any of you were trying to use hot water, wash your hands, and all, wondered what was going on. I just wanted you to realize it is off, and they're working on it.
Dr. Mackey, most of us who've run school systems and worked with large organizations understand if it can happen wrong, it's going to happen.
It will,
And Mr. Baker, you missed my introduction of you about how proud we are.
Well, I apologize.
But I'm going to do it again.
My apologies.
You don't have to apologize. You're the most important person in the room for me.
No, far from it.
Mr. Alan Baker is a distinguished legislator, a longtime supporter of public education, and a resident of Bruton, Alabama. And we're so proud to have you here. You are in the district represented by Ms. Ziegler, and we would give her an opportunity to speak to you, but we want to move ahead with your discussion. We invited Mr. Baker to discuss the legislation, anything that we want to talk about, school choice, funding, anything he wants to. Because part of what we want to do in the last 4 years is increase the state board's activities and involvement with the legislature. Because we accept our responsibility as elected constitutional officials. And we accept our responsibility to communicate with you and the other members of the legislature. And so without any further delay, Mr. Baker.
Thank you so much, Dr. Reynolds. To all the school board then, Dr. Mackey then, much appreciate this opportunity just to be before you. I do applaud each of you in your service, your leadership to our state and what you do. I apologize. need to recapture my thoughts there. But anyway, it's where I'm very pleased to be able to be here, so that if you have any particular questions regarding any aspect of education, particularly from a legislative perspective, then I'll be glad to try to address that to the best of my ability from my perspective on that. There is, though, an area that I would like to maybe be able to discuss somewhat as a overview, and that would be regarding the Numeracy Act. The Numeracy Act is something that passed late in the session last year. I was the House sponsor for that. Arthur Orr was the sponsor in the Senate. And so that is underway, and this is really what I would call really a unprecedented type of plan of action regarding trying to elevate early math. But so with that, then, Dr. Reynolds, would you like for me to discuss any things in advance of I guess my preferred topic at this point would be numeracy, but I'll be glad to delve into any area that you would desire.
Sir, we're at your disposal, and we did mention, and there's some discussion in the public domain about school choice. If you could touch on some aspect that you feel comfortable on that after you do the Numeracy Act, because there's some relationship, I think.
All right, if you don't mind, I would almost prefer to reverse the order and
Your
maybe just
choice,
make
sir,
a few.
you're in charge.
Okay. A few comments in regards to school choice, just brief comment. School choice, to me, is a buzz phrase. It's a very popular buzz phrase that's out there, but it's really, I'd say, largely undefined. It's really a matter of interpretation as to really what school choice might be viewed from any person's perspective. In the legislature, it's the same. It's just a wide assortment, a variety of things. There would be those who would say, well, school choice is what's already out there. I mean, such as whether it be the public school, whether it be even with the expansion into charter schools in the public school domain, whether it be parochial, private schools, home schools, and those avenues already that are available. There are those who would say, no, it goes beyond that. But anyway, it's where I'm not sure what legislation might perhaps bubble up regarding this so-called school choice, because it's really, I mean, fits into a lot of different categories. But having said that, it's where, as a legislator, I will wait to see any legislation for somewhat making any, I mean, maybe further comments. I don't know what legislation might be out there regarding school choice. Sort of amusingly, I guess ran into State Finance Director Bill Poole yesterday in one of the hallways there at the State House. And he said, I heard your name was mentioned with school choice. And he said, you got a bill? I said, no, I don't have a bill. So, but anyway, so it's out there and such in regards to that. But I would be glad to speak with any of you personally in regards to school choice. We go even deeper into that. Any of you that would like to question me about that. But beyond that, then that'd be my very brief comments in regards to school choice. Largely undefined, really sort of a lot of gray area out there, depending upon who you're talking with on that matter of school choice. I would like to sort of go, I did prepare some comments because I felt like it helped sort of keep me a little bit more on track. The Numeracy Act is such a comprehensive plan. It's just a lot, it's a smorgasbord of so many things. I'm part of that, very proud to be affiliated, attached with that. This has been a quest of mine also for Senator Arthur Orr as well, going back several years in terms of trying to, once we were on a pathway to elevate our literacy with the implementation or continued implementation of the Alabama Literacy Act, a second sort of domino for me to begin to knock down was dealing with this, what I consider also a fundamental skill, the numeracy. And so this has been a quest of mine, and as the opportunity provided itself last year for us to maybe move forward with this front, I was delighted to be a part of that. I would, if you would just indulge me, allow me to somewhat go through the prepared comments. I think would make it a little bit smoother for me going forward with some of the overarching points I'd like to make. I'm here today because I understand there were some questions at the last work session regarding the Numeracy Act. I do want to share some overarching thoughts regarding intent, as well as to clarify on some timelines within the Act and to answer any questions. The intent of the Numeracy Act was to establish a comprehensive plan to improve where our teachers have the best training, our students have the best curricula, and our struggling students and struggling schools have the best supports and interventions. The crafting and drafting of the timelines was generated because of the strong sense of urgency to move with all deliberate speed towards implementation of the plan, yet tempered with the pursuit to get it right as we could from the start. Although the extreme urgency towards addressing our math deficiencies is at the forefront of my mind, I personally accept responsibility for 2 of the preliminary timelines that were slightly delayed with acknowledgement and approval from both bill sponsors in the quest of trying to get this right from the start. The first slight delay was the search for the OMI director, and the second was the hiring of an external evaluator by the STEM Council. I would, for a moment, just make some off-the-cuff remarks regarding that. The first delay with the OMI director and Dr. Anderson, I am so thrilled that you're here. I was under maybe the impression that you might not be here today, so I'm delighted and thrilled to have you here.
Anything for
today.
you. The coaching training continues without her.
Right, but, so this was one of the things that, with the search for the OMI director, this was actually as the bill, was late, in the session and moving forward and being passed. And I went specifically, so this was on my court. I went to Dr. Mackey, and so this was me being proactive, right? As the bill was maybe ready to go to the governor's desk and hopefully get signed and such. But letting him know that on this search for the OMI director, this was of such critical importance that first person starting from ground zero, building this whole new department, the OMI, the Office of Mathematics Improvement within the State Department, and that was of critical importance. And that myself personally, as well as talking with the Senate sponsor, Arthur, we wanted to get that best Saban-like leader, perhaps with energy and enthusiasm, to help sort of drive this ship, this train going forward. And so anyway, that was something that I did acknowledge, as well as with the approval of Senate sponsor Arthur, that the search for the OMI director, if we needed to take a little longer, although we had a 90-day time frame in there, hey, I mean, a slight delay, we want to try to get that best leader that we can, and Dr. Anderson, we're so delighted that you are that person. Thank you for your leadership. The other delay surfaced in the fall, and this was, I had outreach to me from the director of the STEM Council, Dr. Lee Meadows, and this was regarding, within the bill, it does require that there be an external consultant hired through the executive committee of the STEM Council. They would conduct an annual review of the Numeracy Act. And so this was something felt to be highly important. The time frame for that was to be the middle of this month, January 15th. And so it was back in the fall that Dr. Lee Meadows approached me saying, we really want to try to get this right. We want to try to get the best wording we can in the RFP. And so if we might could have just a little more time, we think that would be advantageous to us. I did confer with the Senate sponsor out the war. He and I both agreed. We felt, well, there's not a whole lot right now to be evaluated beginning in the early part of this Numeracy Act. And so that seemed very reasonable to us. So with that, then I would say that beyond that, excluding those 2 exceptions there, that I just mentioned then is where the other time frames within the Act are considered reasonable and expected to be adhered to beyond that. But those were 2 things that were acknowledged, and so I was very proactive in reaching out to Dr. Mackey at the forefront. And so that once again, I accept full responsibility, for those slight delays. I would say, in reference to Dr. Anderson, that she's definitely hit the ground running. She perhaps feels like she's running a little bit into the wind at times, but she is really doing a wonderful job in meeting this tremendous challenge head on. I am personally impressed with her expertise and enthusiasm to lead this charge. As the OMI director, Dr. Anderson chairs the Elementary Mathematics Task Force. The Elementary Mathematics Task Force group is composed of a sea of experts and practitioners on the ground. Much like the role of the Literacy Task Force for the implementation of the Literacy Act, the Elementary Mathematics Task Force will be a primary driver towards implementation of the Numeracy Act. I'm very pleased that State School Board member Dr. Chestnut is very engaged, very involved, as I have been as well, in some of the initial early meetings of this task force. And so I would just pause for a moment, if you would allow me.
Sir, you're in charge.
Okay, then, would you like to share any comments in regards to just some of the early, with the meetings with the task force? I've been extremely energized, very excited about this and the sea of experts that I'm sort of in the midst of.
Yes, our last meeting, in-person meeting, we had the opportunity to bring the group together and to see the energy and the level of commitment from the committee was very encouraging. I was really pleased with the progress that we made as we broke into groups in regards to assessment, curriculum, and professional development. And even from that meeting, as we selected the vice chair of the committee, you could see the commitment beyond being assigned to just one particular area. I think at the close of the meeting, the request was that everyone wanted to be a part of all parts. And so it really was encouraging to see everyone come together, even though we had a dual process going on, a part of the team being virtual, the other part face-to-face. We made a lot of progress. The follow-up meeting was even more, we just accomplished so much when you're talking about a time frame. And as Representative said, we're talking about a department that started from nothing. And to see the level of progress that's been made is phenomenal. And we, of course, contribute that to Dr. Anderson and her leadership and the team that's been developed. And so I was really pleased, really excited about what took place, and I'm looking forward to serving on the task force.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chestnut. I would also, as I continue my remarks in regards to the Elementary Mathematics Task Force, then would say that this group is much more than just an advisory group. It's an advisory group with teeth. And with that, I guess I would maybe want to make just sort of some slight references within the bill, because that's one of the things, I guess, in my legislative role, we get hung up at times on words with legislation, particularly the words shall and may. Shall and may, which you can probably ascertain then which sort of has a stronger sort of emphasis. May doesn't carry quite the strength, we understand legislatively, as shall. Throughout the bill, it mentions references over and over and over, shall, in regards to the Elementary Mathematics Task Force and their role in this in collaboration and under leadership as Dr. Anderson serves as the chair of that Elementary Mathematics Task Force and such. So this is in collaboration directly underneath and with the State Department. So anyway, I won't go good. I had several things I might even reference in here. Just it is very, the criteria that they are to consider the Elementary Mathematics Task Force is very in-depth. And so it's not sort of, because they use the word willy-nilly, just sort of them of their own personal sort of things, but actually things that are within the bill that they are, it says shall consider. So they've got to look at each of these, and so I would challenge any of you that's actually, the finished version of the bill end up being 59 pages, and also it's rather lengthy and such, but a lot that's within that. And so the Elementary Mathematics Task Force is charged with a huge responsibility in being a primary driver within the Office of Mathematics Improvement under the leadership of Dr. Anderson. So I'm just really eagerly excited about this going forward. I would say that as I continue my remarks, then you as a state school board, we have a very important role towards the success of the Numeracy Act in hearing the recommendations of this sea of experts of the Elementary Mathematics Task Force under the chairmanship of Dr. Karen Anderson. For the success of this unprecedented comprehensive Numeracy Act plan of action, this will require the governor's office, and Nick, thank you so much for your part in all of this throughout the Numeracy Act and being such a strong role as well of support and continued support on this. Thank you so much. But so this will require, for the success of this act, this will require the governor's office, the legislature, the state school board, the Office of Mathematics Improvement within the State Department of Education, all working together as a collaborative team. In conclusion, I would hope that each of you catch and feel the energy, the passion, the enthusiasm, and the urgency surrounding the implementation of the Numeracy Act and the significant role that you will serve towards supporting students and helping to equip and empower teachers in elevating early math learning. I would share just a final thing within the bill, and this is actually, I'll just reference this, it's on page 56, but this is in regards to sort of my closing statement somewhat in regards to working together. And so I want to make sure that this is at least mentioned here within the bill before I take any questions from you on this, on the Numeracy Act, or any other areas you'd like to discuss. I'll just reference this, not that you have this bill in front of you, but this is page 56 of the bill. And this states then, the state Board of Education may adopt rules as necessary to implement and enforce this section in sections 1 through 17 inclusive, and section 19. So basically, it's saying everything that's within this bill, that you have that responsibility towards implementation as you see fit in moving forward on this. So you've got a significant role to play in this going forward. I know that you will rely very heavily on the work of the Office of Mathematics Improvement, as well, the driver that's a part of that with the various assessments or any of their work that is produced, which they're making recommendations to you, that you will acknowledge that. So you've got a huge role in this going forward. I do thank you for your time. I am just eagerly excited to see this continue, the rollout of this plan going forward. I could not be more enthused, for the students. Those are the ones ultimately what this is all about. I know each of you in your service, that's why you're here. But with that then, thank you so much, Dr. Reynolds, for allowing me to have this opportunity. And I'll open the floor for questions on any areas, whether it be Numeracy Act or otherwise, that you'd like for me to discuss. I'll be glad to entertain that opportunity.
I'd like to make a comment to thank you for coming. And the bill is complex. It's an understatement. 56 pages or 57 pages of a piece of legislation with the must and may and can inclusive language. And I would be remiss without recognizing Senator Orr, who also is in my state school board district, and you're in his collaborative effort in designing the task force and the components in it and putting terms in it. So it's a very important group. And thank you. And now we would ask any individual board members if you have comments or questions for Mr. Baker.
Dr. Rose, could I make a quick comment?
You
While they're
certainly will.
crafting questions, I just want to echo too that thank you to Mr. Baker. Tell y'all a personal story that everybody doesn't know, but well before this bill was introduced, I'm going to say maybe a year before that, I remember we were in an SREB meeting. I think it was SREB. We end up at a lot of meetings together. And he, at the time, the legislature there are a lot of them, there are a lot of bills before them. And there were many things being talked about during that time. This is well before last year's session. But he was talking about math then. And he said, I want us to do something on math like literacy. And I want to lead that effort. And a lot of people in life tell you things they want to do. Not all of them follow through to do it. And he meant it, and he was going to do it, and he did. And it's so good to have. He's been great to work with, obviously. I told him yesterday, thank you for coming to the task force. It's easy, again, to kind of walk away and let other people do, but he wants to hear what those experts have to say. He said it already. There are going to be things coming to you in the next 12 months from the elementary task force, and then within the next few weeks, we'll be forming the higher ed task force. Now, we've got the higher ed work that is going on literacy, and we'll tie those two together, but we'll have a higher ed task force, and they'll be bringing you both of those in literacy and mathematics, recommendations for changes in our approval process for colleges of ed. The elementary task force is going to be bringing you recommendations, maybe changes on materials, on assessments, on several things. So those things are coming, and I want to say to it, I really do appreciate your patience. Last summer, when I got it, it was like, oh my gosh, there's a lot to do really fast. We wanted, as he said, he's the one who called me and said, I want you to meet all the timelines, Dr. Mackey. He's very clear about that, but I want you to get it right. And if that means that it's an either or, then get it right. and gave us the opportunity then to do a nationwide search. And we found who I believe is the best person based on everybody that applied right here in the building, Dr. Anderson. But then she, of course, has had to organize a team. And this is going to be, what you're going to see is, I'm going to borrow a term he hasn't used yet this morning, but he's used to me more than once. Dr. Mackey, keep your foot on the gas. And, right? I mean, I didn't make that up. I'm stealing his term. Keep your foot on the gas.
That's right.
And what we're gonna have to do is actually not just keep our foot on the gas, but keep pushing the accelerator down. I gave him an example that if I could share with you, and I promise I won't take all the time, but when I came into this office, many of you remember, Dr. McCarty, some of you others were with me, but we spent a lot of time on the phone together. But the legislatures, and I'm gonna say something that I don't want to cast any aspersions to anybody, but it is the facts. The legislature 6 years earlier had passed the A through F report card. There was a lot of frustration across the seat because after 6 years of it being law, and multiple superintendents, the department had never issued a report card. And my commitment to some legislators, not Mr. Baker and I don't remember if we had this conversation, but others did with me, was that by the end of, not my first year, but I started the job in May of 18, by the end of 2018, we would, come heck or high water, issue that report card. It would not be delayed a 7th year, or 8th year, I guess. And we did, and I think it went out on December 30th. And then I remember Dr. Boyd and I got together the first week of January and said, we're never gonna do this again, where we have to like work the whole Christmas break to get it done. So the next year it went out in November, and every year since we've been able to get it out in October and November. You're gonna see this same commitment from us on this. We've had to stand up a lot of things, but we're gonna keep pushing our foot down, and we're gonna have to do more and more, faster and faster, because this next year, y'all, I don't know if you saw, we posted a memo late yesterday, but yesterday we gave the official allocation to districts for their $90,000, the ones that are going to get a math coach. We had planned to give that out in December. I told superintendents in October our plan was to give it out in December, and we didn't, and that's on me. But we got it out by mid-January, so they know now in July they're going to get money for somebody next year, so they can go ahead and find them a math coach and do what they have to do to replace that person. In the future, we're going to try to do it even earlier than that. We have to obviously get the test data back and to break it down. But here's one a perfect example. So there's been some concern, like because that it goes, as the bill says, first to our full support and LS1 support schools. Well, you know, superintendents and principals don't like to be on a list. So they're going to try to get off that list. But then there's concern, well, if I get off the list, do I lose my math coach? Thankfully, the way the bill's written, no, the act, not a bill now, no. Because we will roll forward and everybody will get a math coach. So when those letters that went out, they're basically guaranteed a math coach now in perpetuity for forever. And I just think that's so much wisdom in this bill, because y'all know, we've talked about this, that many times what we've done is invest in schools that need it. And then as soon as they get 1 degree above that line, we move on somewhere else. And then they kind of wobble on and off that line. In this act, Representative Baker and Senator Orr made sure that we're not going to invest until you get better and then walk away from you. We're investing in you for forever. And we're starting with the schools that are the lowest performing in the state and giving you first shot, but we'll never walk away from this. And then, of course, this time, not this time next year, but earlier than this time next year, we'll be bringing on additional schools. And within a few years, we'll have all of them. And I think it's a 6-year rollout. I may be wrong on that, but I think it's designed as a 6-year rollout. I know I'm not going to put words in his mouth, but I know there's been some talk about with the funding coming in like it's now, could we do it faster than in 6 years? And so I'm sure those efforts, those discussions will be going on in the legislature. But anyway, I appreciate the time, Dr. Reynolds and Representative Baker. Cannot say again enough. Thank you for seeing the vision, but but not walking on to another vision, for keeping it there. And thank you for continuing to remind me, and I'm sure I'll get other calls. Is your foot still on the gas, or are you pushing your foot? I suspect a call soon that says, I want your foot on the gas and like push it through the floorboard, Maggie. And I promise you, that is our commitment to get it done. But we couldn't do it without the funding. We couldn't do it without the support of you and the board. As you said, the governor's office. I've never been more excited about work. I was real excited about the literacy work. We learned a lot from that. But this is groundbreaking for the country. It's really important. Thank you, Dr. Reynolds.
Well, Ms. Baker, as you know, this board is committed to following through with what the legislature wants us to do.
Thank you.
And taking impetus from things you want to do and put it in the administrative code so that the legislature doesn't have to do all the heavy lifting. But we're committed to governance. We're committed to improvements. And so that I don't talk too much like I usually do. And I will ask any of my colleagues if you want to have comments or questions.
I do. And then I'd follow.
Surprise.
I know.
Take
You
your
thought I
last
was
shot.
going away. But, no, not yet. So yes, I do. And thank you again so much for coming. And thank you for serving on the task force and being an active member and then reporting back to us, you know, what you saw and witnessed and the progress that's being made. Thank you. I confess that I did not invest as much time in absorbing all the details of the Numeracy Act like I had the Literacy Act until very recently. And when I began to look at it, I started having heart palpitations because, and Dr. Anderson, I can't imagine, but I started seeing the deadlines August 1st for the full support schools, and that the task force has to vet and approve the curriculum by that time. And then of course we know then they have to order it, then we have to wait for it to come in, then the teachers have to be trained on it, and then August 1st is like tomorrow, you know, in the education world. And so that is a lot of work to do, but we want it, right? Because it is about our students and serving our students with what we know that these experts, I wouldn't know, but the experts on this task force know to be the best that's out there. And so then I also saw some other deadlines with PD and assessments and that sort of thing. And they're tight deadlines. Many of them are this upcoming school year that they will have to be implemented. And so one of my questions is just to try to get it straight in my head, is there some sort of graphic or some sort of outline that the department or your office has put together that shows us how all these pieces fit together and how, like the tactics, how will we meet these target dates? And I'm not sure if there is, if we have one, I'd love to see, for the whole board to see it. I'd love to get a copy this afternoon since I won't be here after this afternoon, but that would be fantastic because I'm trying to comprehend. And I'll be honest, I only got to about page 39 and I was so overwhelmed with the deadlines and the volume of work that it will take, the hours. Like Jackie, you have served as our representative on the Literacy Task Force. 3.5 years, just to.
3.5
years. How many hours would you estimate that you've had to invest?
And we have met, we met, even during COVID, we met every Monday for 2.5 hours, and sometimes 3 and sometimes 4. But if you take your foot off the accelerator, then you pause. And you just keep moving forward, and our goal was always, are we doing what's best for kids? And if I don't care, and I love our teachers, but the kids are number one, and then the teachers are number 2, and getting it done. And I'm sort of going to take a little sidebar, and I sort of would, after Dr. McCarty is done, would you go ahead and reiterate that the Literacy Task Force has those same parameters of our recommendations. I mean, as a matter of fact, I spent all day with them yesterday and they're up there today. And that needs to be reiterated. It's not just a frivolous, it is hardworking, we debate it, we look at it, we go back and look at it again, and sometimes 3 and 4 times. But you have to do it thoroughly to get the job done. And I think that little piece has shown us up in the scores of the NAEP score and the ACAP. And I believe the math will do it the same way. But if you don't ever start the ball rolling, it won't ever go forward. And you just have, and there'll be times you'll have your task force where some will just go off. It's just either too much for them or they retire or whatever. But there is that core group that are bulldogs.
So 3.5 years and every Monday.
Well, we did that during the, when we were in, the pandemic, because we were not meeting, but we meet face to face all the time. And so.
So do we have a timeline of some sort of graphic that somebody can provide for us?
I would say I have been provided, and of course I'll allow the State Department to speak on their own report, but I've been provided from the State Department then a Numeracy Act timeline and such, so I would think this would be accessible with their blessing and such, so.
Yeah. Ms. Baker, can I?
Sure.
Absolutely. So Dr. Anderson and I know you guys had one from October, like in the board, in your board materials, you had a timeline in October. But we just took what had originally, like when the bill first passed, this was a visual that you could see with the colors, and it shows timelines of what's happening, and it also shows the annual reports. So this visual went out as soon as the bill passed in our enactments. We took it and updated it. Dr. Anderson went through and updated where are we, what's the implementation status. But this, I also want to say, one thing that might be a little confusing is sometimes it will say by June 28th. And in my mind, like by June 28th means completed by June 28th. But then other parts of the law, it says beginning in October 1 of 2022, this. That's not a deadline. That's telling you when these parts begin. Does that make sense? So when the law says beginning in January of 23, these parts kick in. And so that's how, we would literally take that language right out of the bill. So if it says beginning January 15th, this occurs. Beginning in August of 23, this occurs. Beginning in the summer after the 22-23 school year. So when something says you do it on or before or by this day, that's really a deadline. But in laws, it's telling you, especially for school years, like people are like, okay, so is it like August 1? But when it says beginning in August of a certain year, that's for this school year, but it's gonna be for that whole school year. So I think that this will help Dr. Anderson put that together, and we'll make sure that you guys copies of that. That's one thing that can absolutely help.
You can get us copies of that today. Then.
Absolutely. Yes.
If I might could follow up on one that Jessica just mentioned, was one of the things on the timeline that was asked with this August, and that was to convene and oversee a post-secondary math task force. And so that's somewhat set that in motion, but best I'd have to go back to the bill, so I think I'm correct in this. I don't think the guidelines, though, actually are expected to be, effective until 24.
That's correct. Like even though they're being built, they're not effective yet.
So to your point then, I guess you made a very good point with that. So there's a timeline, but there's some things where they're being put in motion, but there's really not somewhat the end sort of game, so to speak, of where they are in providing their guideline, and that would be then in 2024. So that's a good point.
I don't mean to cut you off. That's that pushing the accelerator harder and harder, because that's one that we've not appointed that task force yet, but we're firmly committed we'll make the deadline on getting the recommendations done, so they're gonna have to be compressed work. Part of that was trying to get the office stood up. So we have all of our people hired now, all of our regional people are hired.
Dr. Anderson,
So-
she'll know.
Yeah, but it's gonna have to be, it's not work that's gonna, this is work that'll never be done. It's like Ms. Ziegler may cry with me saying that, but Literacy Task Force the same way. So you finish a vetting, there's something else behind it to come. They were up there yesterday. I mean, y'all heard me last night. There's paper everywhere, books everywhere, because they were having to dig deep into it. And when that work's done, it won't be like, oh well, this law is now implemented, all the work, task force work done, like there'll be more, it'll never stop.
And to help too, there was a memo yesterday, because she and I were talking, you know, so many schools that they're in communication with, that school knows that they're a limited full sports school, because they communicate that directly to the school. You're gonna be getting a coach, this is what's going on. But so many other schools around the state are uncertain, they're not sure, so there was a memo that went to everyone. And it said, if you're getting the $90,000, you know, if we're about to send it to you, you've already been identified separately. So schools will know, you know, when are we getting them, when are we getting, well, cohort 1 of math coaches will be in schools this fall. And so everyone can know that, but if you didn't get contacted individually, then you're not getting your 90,000 right now. It's a rollout.
Thank you. Ms. West, you have a question?
Okay, Representative Baker, thank you so much for coming today. And let me just say, when I first arrived here 4 years ago, you were very kind to me when you were serving on the strategic planning team. And I appreciated that work, and I really see this as a continuation of work that you were doing during that planning period for the state, because that was a long-term vision for all of education. So, and Dr. Anderson, I have full faith in you. I've watched you for many years, and you're so talented. My question really has to do more with our teacher preparation programs. We've had an awful lot of discussion recently about our teacher preparation programs surrounding literacy and letters training and the work that they're doing. And I know that in the Act, there will be, and I'm not going to pull out specific pages or language, but Dr. Anderson, will we be communicating with all of our colleges of education on what this bill entails that they will be needing to put into the classroom to prepare future teachers? We know that many of our colleges of education are starting to promote or provide letters training, and so we will want to communicate early, I think, with them so that they're not caught off guard, because they move very slowly with their boards of trustees and the things that they have to put into place. So that's my question.
Yes, absolutely. And as I have gone around the state, I have had the opportunity to speak to some colleges and universities already, and have just shared an overview that really pertained to that particular point with teacher preparation and with the knowledge through the Act, what teachers should be able to do in terms of best practices in mathematics instruction. So we've begun those conversations. I've had colleges and universities reach out to me. I've got a meeting coming up with A&M and Huntington and Tuskegee. They're all gonna come together. And that's just the beginning. And the post-secondary task force, I think, will be another catalyst for us to communicate, to just ensure that every college and university is clear.
Thank you.
Representative Baker, thank you so much for your work, Dr. Anderson, and I think it's very imperative that we are starting with colleges and universities. I was leaning over asking Dr. Mackey, we know we'll be looking at new teachers, but what about those that are already out in the field working? And he was saying, yes, we'll be doing that. But my question to you is, as we go forward, I know that monies are set aside for math coaches and in order for us to have resources. But is there a mechanism in place to make sure that that funding is sustained? Because we know sometimes this is a mandated, act for sustainability.
Right, you make a very, I guess, strong observation in regards to the legislature, that at times I speak somewhat accepting responsibility being part of that body, but there are times that there's legislation that we hear unfunded mandates and such. So that becomes very concerning to me as well as to any that are affected by such. So, but anyway, having said that, the best that I can share in regards to the Numeracy Act is that this was generated from a strong source then, who's a budget chair currently. Now, of course, we don't know, the time frame going forward in regards to leadership and such, but so this is something we have strong commitment from Senator Arthur Orr on this. Of course, with my being a part of the House Budget Committee in the House, then as well, that's something that I know that Chairman Garrett is very responsive to and such, and of course, I'll be right there to help push the cart as well. But, there's a strong commitment for us to see this through, and not for this simply to be something that we sort of set in motion, and that's one, I guess I don't maybe consider it a fault, or maybe it's a virtue, but, I have a hard time with being a part of legislation and then just letting it drop and okay, just let it go and such. I'm one that chooses to try to follow up on the legislation, see that there's implementation and such, and want to be a part of that. And so if there's things that maybe that need to be even, something that needs to, where it needs a little bit of a tweak to it, then that surfaces, and I need to know that as well. But, so in response to you, thank you for your kind comments, but this is something that there's a strong commitment for this. It will be a sort of phased-in gradual rollout, and this is Dr. Anderson, as the OMI director, will be the one in charge, that is in direct collaboration with the Elementary Mathematics Task Force in regards to the scale at which this rollout of math coaches begins to occur and such, but based on what they can provide as recommendations going forward, and then of course bringing that to the board here as well, and to us as legislators, to our ears, then we want to be responsive to what we're hearing in regards to that rollout plan. So we understand. Of course, we'd like, a lot of my colleagues, they was like, well, can we get there sooner? Can we get there quicker? Yes. And we'd love to get there. I mean, I said, told Dr. Mackey over and over, keep your foot on the gas and all, but it is something that's going to take some time. I acknowledge that, but I still just have eager excitement about this. As many of you have acknowledged, it's just a very comprehensive bill. It's not just touching on one area. We didn't even mention about the multi-tiered support system and just a lot of different things that are incorporated in this just wonderful bill.
Yes.
So anyway, thank you for your kind
Thank you
comments.
very much.
Ms. Ziegler?
I was gonna say, reading through the Numeracy Act, is like, and I mean, I have read the Literacy Act 50 times. Every single time something pops out, I go, where did that come from? So I know that's gonna happen with the Numeracy Act. But I do have one tweak. I wish in our verbiage that we would call it the law. Because when people hear that the numeracy law, the literacy law, it gives it a little bit more, acts, they go, oh yeah, that comes and goes, and what you were just saying. But and that's one thing that drives us all the time when we do the literacy task, when we are vetting and going through it, we follow the letter of the law. And I think if that is part of our verbiage, I think that would help.
Thank
But
you so
actually,
much.
it's a matter of interpretation. When the governor signs it, it is the law.
Well, I know, but I'm just saying we need to use that verbiage to give it the oomph that
I'm
people will
certain
take
Mr.
it.
Baker will remind us that it is the law, and he helped write it.
Right.
All
But I think you
50
understand the
whatever
verbiage I'm
It has,
saying.
Sir,
a word has power.
Right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
And I accept that may be, may be a way going forward then to use that language. Just pondering as you were beginning to make that comment on that, act versus law, like I mentioned, like shall versus may, there's things that carry maybe a little bit heavier weight. And definitely law does seem, in my mind, the connotation is that it's a little bit heavier than weight on that, and simply act on that. So thank you for that comment. So I'll probably going forward, even though it could be used either, act or law, I understand that. But that might be a very, beneficial way for me going forward then to address that. Thank you so much for that comment. You're welcome.
Ms. McRae?
Yes, I want to know a little bit more about the accountability part of this. What will happen at the end of the road? I understand there's some teeth in this law.
Right, okay. First, this is, it's for any identified full support school. It's where this is really up to a 7-year process. So it's not something that's sort of, just, 1 or 2 years and now, we're not meeting, then levels of proficiency that is a progress. And it's where the first part of it would be for 3 years of what we would call then being a full support school. So just receiving these supports that are part embedded within the bill. That would include the math coach and other supports. After 3 full years, if that school has not shown adequate progress, then that school then would move into the next, then potentially up to 4-year then step sequence and that would be state academic intervention. Now, this is not takeover, it's state academic intervention. This is an intensive school turnaround plan. This would be in coordination with the local education authorities, along with the State Department, that would develop this plan. And there are things contained in the bill, the things that they are to look at in regard to this turnaround plan. And so this would be for 4 years that this turnaround plan would be in place. And then thereafter, so after the initial 3 years, and then with the state academic intervention then, that would be the 4 years, and up to 4 years. Of course, hopefully they might roll off of it, and now we're not having to address that issue with that school. But if not, then after the full 7 years, then that is when there are 3 choices that the local authorities would make. This would not be the State Department making the choice. So, okay, because that was one of the things in pushing the bill forward. A lot of these kept thinking, okay, take over. We hear that, and this is not really takeover. So it is, there's intervention involved, so I'll use that word, but it's not a takeover per se. So the local education authorities would have 1 of 3 choices. One would be to convert to a charter school. Second would be, and these are in no particular orders, the local authorities would choose on this. The second would be a reconstitution of that school. So this would be dismissing everyone from the principal with all the employees. And I know a lot of my colleagues in the legislative body were like, "Oh, that's rather drastic." It's like, well, you need to understand, this has been going on for 7 years. There's some deeper rooted problem, issue within that school that we've got to address. Now, we're not telling the local authorities how they got to address it. We're giving them some options as to how maybe we not now can, they've got an acute problem. So it's where we're providing the options. So the other I mentioned was the second was the reconstitution of the school. And so that would be from principal on down. Now, it's where any of the employees there could then file to be rehired, or file for reemployment, and that would be up to the local authorities, somewhat in regards to that going forward on that. But the third then would be what's called an external receiver. So this would be an entity. It could be a 2 or 4 year school. It could be a nonprofit. It would be some type of entity that has had, and this would be something that would be vetted to the state school superintendent. That would have, it would have to be something that he has approved. So be approved through the state school superintendent. This external receiver. That would be a third option for that school to go to, which basically would be they would set up whatever the parameters are of that. So I can't go into details in regards to what that might entail in regards to a external receiver and their setup for that school operation. But that would be the third option. So going back through, so it would be convert to charter school, then reconstitution of the school, or external receiver of the 3 choices. Welcome.
Thank you very much. Is there any other kind of question? It's obvious, we've had comments made about failing schools and failed schools, and what you just made your reference to are those after a period of intervention who determined that we have to do something more stringent. And I think empowering or authorizing the organizational structure of the state school board and the state superintendent to do that is imperative, because we discussed that in literacy and other things about at what time do you say we've intervened enough, we have to do something more drastic. And ma'am, would you make a comment? You've been shaking your head a lot, and I would not to recognize you based on your expertise and great service to our community.
It is just a pleasure and an honor to be here. I appreciate everyone's confidence in me, and Representative Baker, I'm just so grateful to you for your direction and your leadership and your support. You have been constant. This is a wonderful opportunity to really do great things, not just in Alabama for our children, but for the entire nation in terms of mathematics. It's just a wonderful, it's a huge task, but it's one that I'm truly, truly excited about. I hope you'll get an opportunity to meet the regional coordinators that have been hired soon. They are a dynamic group, and working with the Elementary Mathematics Task Force has just been a joy. When I saw the list, that was one of the first things that I received in this position, was just a list of who would be serving on the task force. And it's just such a dynamic group of experts, and then getting everyone in the room, you can just feel their energy and their enthusiasm. And believe me, everyone in the task force, everyone has a foot on the gas. And so I'm helping to steer and provide direction, but I certainly have a greater sense of urgency, probably than anyone in this room, just from my years of, this is year 37 for me in education, and it's good to see math have the attention that literacy has had for years. I'm just thrilled and I'm excited and I'm grateful. Thank you.
Dr. Anderson, one question, I'm sorry. When you mentioned the task force, and I'm sorry, I have not seen the list, we have found that in the literacy, that our experts, and I know there's the experts, but the experts are the ones with their feet on the ground. They're ones with the eyes on the children, the ones that are seeing actual implementation, what works, what doesn't. Do you have enough of the classroom? I know we hate to take them out of the classroom, and I'm not asking for you to do it right now, but is there, maybe, send it to us. How many of them are actual classroom teachers or in the schools?
Well,
You might.
got it right here.
Okay, does it designate what their role is?
We've got, yes,
Okay,
we've got first of all, the state school board president, superintendent, 2 principals, 2 math coaches, 3 teachers out of this list.
And can you send that to us
Yes,
along
absolutely.
with the
and it does
the job description,
Thank you,
Absolutely, yes.
what they do?
thank you.
Absolutely.
And
Mr.
from
Baker?
where?
I'm sorry.
Which district?
Yeah, which district,
Or
where they live, whatever.
We
Whatever she
just,
said.
we
Thank
had
you.
discussed the concept of law, and of course, the school board, the state school board, develops a law called the administrative code. And of course, our intent and our obligation is to follow the law. But do you see any need or reason for us to include some stipulations in our administrative code, or simply to follow your law? That's you didn't, I told you you wouldn't call it an odd question, but that's an odd question.
That's definitely a curveball for me on that one there. I would see where there's merit to both, on this, both, from the administrative and code law, as well as the law that we have. One of the areas, and I think it's something that might have been somewhat lightly discussed even before this state school board, and that would be such as something that we've been dealing with a few years now in the legislative body, and that's about first grade readiness.
Yeah.
And such, so whether that's.
We're doing that.
And so whether that's being done administratively, then outside of us producing legislation, because we've had difficulty trying to get legislation through, although there seems to be a strong push for that, which I don't mind conveying. I'm
Mr.
strong
Baker, that's
supporter.
why I asked you that question, because we had Ms. Collins discuss the issue of first grade readiness.
Right.
And the board took that as our mandate to develop, and we have on our work schedule agenda to provide and move forward with a first grade readiness administrative code. So that's why I asked you that, because
Thank you.
when we met with Ms. Collins and she couldn't get an issue through the legislature, we said, we'll take our responsibility as a body to pass a law, which is the administrative code, to do that. So that's what we're asking. If you see any other things, I know you'll tell Dr. Mackey what to do, and he listens to you very intently.
We stay
But
very engaged.
we're all interested in what you do, and the legislature, we're very interested. Each member of this group wants to be more involved in the legislative process, not as a separate group, but we want to be involved as you deliberate. And you're a member of the education policy.
Both of the education committees, education budget committee and the education policy committee, I serve on both.
I was hesitant to say what you were, but I remember that. I know you're a very important person on Gold Hill, so.
Thanks for your kind comments, and, but anyway, I much appreciate the board and, the engagement that you have with myself and other legislators, and the willingness then to be bold, to where, because it's sometimes, we're just, as each of you recognize, you're sort of a target, as I am as well. So
We ran the job like we did.
that's it, but anyway, but having said that, then, but ultimately then, there are those, as I would hope that most of you are, and many of you that I know well, then seem to be with this mindset, that is that you are bold in doing what's right in the best interest of the students and such, and sort of casting some of the other things aside as to whether there's an opportunity to get reelected or any of that, and those become then secondary to anything except for the students. But anyway, getting back to the first grade readiness, then I applaud the work and the job done on that, moving in that direction. That has been something that has been somewhat of a sore spot for me, and that for our inability to get that through in the legislature.
We're taking care of that for you.
Thank you. Y'all are wonderful with that. It's where I think there are those that get hung up in certain areas, legislators that maybe don't become quite as engaged maybe in some of the education fronts, and they just maybe hear a brief sort of smattering of voices from their district. Maybe something about, they hear about mandatory, then kindergarten and all, which that's not what this is about. This is first grade readiness, but there's things that get intertwined in it that sort of derail maybe the opportunity to move it forward. So once again, thank you so much for what y'all have done then to help us out, the legislative body where we have failed.
Well, we are not helping you out, we're colleagues.
There you go.
We
Thank you.
are, we're taking a different bite out of the same apple, and
Right.
all of us, some of us have been in education a long time. If you've been in 37 years, you must have started when you were 5. But I've been in education for 50 years, and I look at it. Mr. Baker, without any other,
I do.
I'm certain.
You know, I'm gonna
You
have
do.
more questions.
Sorry,
So,
Ms. Bell, did you have a question?
yes, if
No,
you go,
she
go
can
ahead.
take it first.
All right.
Well, and this is just some concerns I've gotten from schools in my district, and it's concerns about the summer math camp. Is there a timeline for when they will get some details about the summer math camp and how it will be run and funded? I've also had some questions
Yes,
about that.
we're really excited to be collaborating with ARI. I think that collaboration was embedded in the law where there is a place for math to be embedded K-3, and then for grades 4 and 5 to have problem solving. And so we thought it was super important for districts and schools to know exactly what that looks like. So our goal is to have guidance ready this month in January. We know that there are schools that start planning for summer even earlier than this. But we are just so grateful that now we've got staff in place for OMI, and ARI has already been in place and moving forward very well. So now we've been able to collaborate. So we anticipate having guidance ready later this month.
Well, and thank you for that. And then a second question, I saw that we got the memo about mega conference, and that's always, a highlight of the year for professional development. And I guess I was wondering and I'm sure that all the sessions haven't been filled yet, but with all the PD needs for our math teachers, do you plan to have a lot of sessions, especially like the new assessments that will come out, the screeners, formative, and intervention and all the other sort of screeners that there are out there, or assessments? Because as you know, with a new assessment, the teacher's got to understand how to do it, and then how to read the results, and then know what to do with the results that can best help those children, right? So even the best of teachers would probably improve with some training.
So I will say that I'm not going to be your expert in any of those individual assessments. I know that the vendors will have training available for their individual products, but at the same time, I know that we will be part of that training so that we can follow up and support our full and limited support schools. And in terms of our presence at Mega, we have already planned several sessions to address district, school administrators, coaches, and teachers. So I've got the regional coordinators already working on those individual sessions so that we can really try to cast a wide net and be sure we're meeting needs across the board to definitely impact K-5 math instruction.
And so I haven't seen the timeline, but is the timeline, will those screeners and all the assessments be in place by the 2023-24 school year, by the beginning of it? Because some of those deadlines are like,
Yes.
In August.
So there was a memo that came out last year that addressed those screeners for this year and for next year. And the Elementary Mathematics Task Force is currently working. Dr. Mackey gave us a very clear timeline to work with so that he could communicate by June 1st, I believe, to all superintendents what those assessment systems would look like. And so that's the timeline that we're working under.
So June 1st for the next, for the
For the next year,
2023.
for 24. So the 23 memo went out in June. We're way ahead of that, last June. We want to stay to give schools a year to get that training and all done. And so now we've shifted that though, now that we have the math task force from AMSTI to the mathematics task force, and they are looking at 24, fall of 24. Now, there are 3 math assessments and I think 2 reading on the list for fall of 23. They are, and the task force is looking at what is published for the fall of 24, so it could go out more than a year ahead of time. They
There's
are
just
looking
been some
at,
questions about
yeah,
that, so thank
absolutely.
you.
So they want, I think one of the things we gave them was the option, if they wanted to add another one for the fall of 23, they could. But I think the discussion, and I walked away then in the subcommittee, was we don't want to add any. If anything, we want to look at narrowing the window, not expanding it. So I don't expect them to come back to that recommendation. If they do, we'll deal with it. But I think they're looking, they're already working on what they'll look like for the fall of 24. And then that's one of those things that's back to that pushing the accelerator harder. So there's one piece in there that, and I can't remember what it is, but it is a kind of a diagnostic screener that they've not been able to identify that there even is such a screener. Fractional screener. That one exists under any vendor anywhere in the country. And so it may be that we have to contract and develop one. Well, obviously, no, that is not going to be ready by the end of this semester. But they're pushing hard so that if we have to do that, obviously, we're going to follow state law. We'll have to go through a RFP process, and that task force will have to vet them, and we may have to choose a vendor to develop one. But, as quickly as it can, it'll be about there. And those are questions, I'm not getting them. I know that Dr. Anderson and Ms. Martin are getting those questions from districts now, so we're continuing to communicate with them. We've been focusing on those first schools that are getting a coach, because that's one of the most important things that can happen now. They have to hire they've got to hire the right coach. They have the money, the legislatures provide the money, the guidance. We are going to make districts sign an MOU like we've done under the Literacy Act. So what we learned from the first implementation of ARI, some districts we didn't require an MOU, and some districts didn't use their reading coach money as effectively as we thought they should. So now we have the force of law. I'll keep using that word, and I'm going to use it. The force of law behind us with the Literacy Act. It's not just something the department's doing, it's a law. So we came back and required them to sign an MOU, a legal document that they must use the reading coach this way. You're going to do the same MOU for math. Those people have to have these qualifications. They have to do it this way. We notified the districts earlier this week that in February the MOU process would be coming. They go ahead and be looking for a math coach, but don't hire anybody till we get the MOU signed, because they've got to make sure they commit to it. And again, those are the most needy schools.
Well, the one thing that I heard Mr. Baker say was that when they promulgated this law, they put deadlines in because they wanted deadlines to exist. But they've also shown the realization that some of those deadlines, when you get into the real world, have to be modified. And the idea of keeping the accelerator to the floor doesn't mean you run the car in the ditch to go too fast. And I think that's an analogy that may not be accurate, but if you know how I drive, you would understand. Ms. Bell, you got a question, comment?
Yes, I do, and I appreciate all of the questions that have preceded my only question, basically. But first, I do thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
And this is something that has been, it's not unique. It's something that we started many years ago when I was first elected, the relationship with the legislature and the State Board of Education is crucial because we have different roles and responsibilities, as you know. And as far as being a target, I don't really see either one of us being a target. I see us as public servants who have a job to do.
Right.
And we listen to our constituency, and they may all be different, but we have to do our job, and we want to get it right the first time. And as Dr. Mackey has alluded to, part of the problem with the prior Alabama Reading Initiative that was very successful, modeled across the country, and I see this with the numeracy act and of course with the current Literacy Act that are both now law. The fact is that we must do what is required not only by law, but what we know is right for children. And that's already been said. So I'm being somewhat redundant, but I do want to reinforce that. And I do appreciate the comments. The one thing that, and I had actually this morning, I've been blessed with a really good working relationship with the legislators in my district. And my district is unique in that we have split counties. And so part of, and Belinda's another, Jefferson County is a perfect example where you may have a legislator that has 3 state school board members in the district. But the bottom line is that I had several calls and text messages this morning from legislators. And so, and that's not new. That's something that has been over the years, and I won't tell you how long. I think we both know kind of how long it's been since I've been here. But I do appreciate the push, and I did have the opportunity to, and I was actually asked to, and Senator Orr was at this meeting, but the focus was on Alabama in a positive way, and I think that's a good thing. That has been there in the past, and it's frankly very refreshing to see it currently, and I hope it continues. But I think this communication is extremely important. And with that, I would like to go into and I know it's almost noon. You haven't been watching your phone like I've had some messages sent, and and plus I've been watching the weather. I keep getting these weather alerts. You're going south, and
Right.
I think you're maybe in better shape, I hope. It looks pretty bad.
Yeah.
So I won't keep you, but I would like to have a little bit of a mention on the school choice presentation. Not to put you on the spot, but do you see that, and I've heard from my friends in the legislature as well as others who really believe this will be the big push of the session. And going into it, I think it's helpful for this board and for others to know what we will be dealing with in the next couple of months. And I know March will be the heavy lifter month, and really into April we'll see a lot more happening, and it's impossible to predict exactly what the outcome may be. It may be nothing, but it may be something. And as far as where you are on this, where do you see this headed, and what would you like to share? Because we really do need to have that communication now instead of end of the session.
And I'm not sure exactly where the legislative body would be on this, because we have almost a third of the legislature that's new coming in. And so I maybe would just use the analogy, sort of like the lottery issue that's been out there for a while, gaming issue, and it shows that the state, that they do these surveys and all, that I know the people then that would favor lottery and all, but yet the legislature never is able to quite get anything produced to get out there to the public. But I'm sharing that to say that there seems to be a wide and, the variety of different perspectives in regards to gaming, and likewise I see the same with school choice. So I don't know that there's, in school choice, once again, it's, as I mentioned at the forefront, is really sort of largely undefined.
It is, and you're correct, because when I was first elected, school choice was district. You may have to pay something, but you could select going into a different district, so I understand.
Right, zone for that district, you're right. So it sort of has evolved over time. And so that's where I don't know exactly what bill. I do expect some school choice bills to surface during the session. Exactly what they would be, or what that area of school choice would be. That's the unknown for me in regards to that. I can share just a brief comment. I will say this was sort of a little bit enlightening to get feedback. When there was a bill last year, Senator Marsh was the one that introduced in the Senate what would be referred to as a school choice bill. And I generally try not to get too consumed on any bills, whether even House bills, that are not moving forward to where I need to take my time. There's just such a mass volume of bills out there, and particularly if it's something in the Senate, then it's where, although it may be, front page on the news, and then to my eyes and ears, then I've got other focuses that I'm gonna be dealing with and not divert my energies towards something that may not even make its way to the House to consider. So getting back to this bill that Senator Morris had introduced regarding school choice, it was something that I was already getting a number of hits in regards to emails and such and contacts regarding that bill that was up in the Senate, and I would let them know, listen, there's a lot of things that changed, so I'd let them know, sort of that I'll stay engaged on this, and I welcome any input that they had on that. But I will say that there was a huge volume of negative input, particularly from a lot of those that supposedly that the bill was going to maybe provide some opportunities, and that was from the parochial, the private, and the homeschool. A lot of, I was just very enlightened, whoa, and such, that there was a lot of backlash from those that I think that expressed to me some concerns in varying ways through their emails and such, but that they enjoyed being outside the realm of sort of government regulation, and also the accountability that might would go with taking government dollars and such. So that was the thing that was sort of a enlightening experience for me last year with that bill, was a lot of that backlash. So having said that, I'm not sure, and I know that a lot of that varies district by district in terms of what the maybe the school choice means to a particular group of people. But so I hope that I've not dodged your question. I've tried to as best I can, then just express that I'm really not sure what may bubble up. This session regarding school choice. I do think it is going to continue to be. It's one of those just very popular phrases out there, school choice. To me, it's sort of akin to broadband expansion. Like, who's against broadband expansion? Like, well, you don't find any, but then get into the details of it, and trying to find out, okay, trying to go down, into an area where it's not feasible for some of these companies, because it's not the government that actually providing broadband, it's private sector that's providing this, and these are business decisions they're making as to the broadband. But anyway, I've sort of diverted just a moment just to say that it's all a matter of sort of an interpretation regarding some of these things out there.
But you haven't seen any, and nothing has been dropped from what I can tell. So directly on that question, no, I've not seen anything yet that has reached my eyes that has been dropped or that I'm aware of at this point in time. Because I hear it every day practically, somewhere, and somebody mistakenly thinks that we have that authority, and of course, it's easy to correct it, but I'm not sure how we could have that authority and work through the funding part or the getting by some of the laws that would have to be changed in order to provide those funds.
Now, I'm sure, Mr. Baker, if a bill drops, you're accessible to us as you are now to deal with a real event, because in our discussion, there's no bill to discuss.
Correct.
There's nothing to oppose or support right now.
Right.
Mr. Baker, is there any other questions for Mr. Baker? I'm certain he's got a busy schedule as they start the new quadrennium, and you're still in the organizational structure, aren't you?
Actually, we signed that, so as of yesterday, so
So you're off work, huh?
well,
I'm
actually,
facetious.
I've got a STEM council then group meeting I'll be heading to after I depart from here, but it's been a delight to be with each of you today, and thank you so much for this opportunity. I very much welcome just the engagement, but as much so just the input that I hear from each of you, so I hope that each of you, although Dr. Ziegler, much appreciate your service, of course, you being my state school board member, but
Take good care of you.
you do excellent. But from each of you then in your roles, please don't hesitate to reach out to me in any way that you can provide me with input. I really welcome that. I have made with my earlier career, then being an educator, then this is a passion of mine here in this service in Montgomery, as indeed it is, I'm sure, for each of you. But So I continue to welcome that input from each of you and any perspectives or issues that arise. I do desire that. So I'm not just saying that just to say something nice, but actually I do want your feedback. So thank you so much.
Well, thank
Mr.
you.
Baker, thank you. Recess for lunch and reconvene at 1:00. Mr. Baker, you're invited to have lunch with us, but if you've got other obligations, you have
I may stick around just a little while just for anyone to engage with me.
to.
Yeah, look, we have, Brandon said he's going
First going by.
it's going by.
Well, there's another line between us and Selma, so.
Any schools take that?
We, yeah, I mean, we know there's damage in Selma. We know that all the students are safe. And we don't have an assessment.
You know what, I'm gonna grab another document, now that I've been here so long.
Across the track, which goes across several other schools in Dallas and Harvard County.
Thank you, Charles. I hate that. Thank you.
Yeah, and Selma, got the kids, since we, yeah, kids are all right. Since we adjourn, I'll be headed down. Sir.
Yeah, we're great. I'm not good, but I don't need anything else.
And Eric, I know you'll do this, but if you hear of anybody, any
I will.
district, and even if it's not my district, I like to know, so we can put them on my prayer list.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we do
I thought you were
have,
Methodist.
I can pray if I'm
I
Methodist.
said I thought you were Methodist.
Well, I know, but I can pray if I'm Methodist.
I didn't say that.
well, I'll take great offense to that.
But it's you,
Well,
right?
I do know
See,
that.
I don't care
We
if he's,
pray.
Well, I'm back.
see, I don't care if he's a Methodist, because I tell him he was a Baptist and Moses
I
Baptist.
missed that whole conversation. I have just, I'm not Baptist or Methodist, so can I join in?
Oh, wait, is she United Methodist or is she disaffiliated?
Oh, don't even know.
We will proceed with the agenda. Right now, we will skip board questions for a moment unless there's an objection.
Wait a minute, whoa. We're gonna skip.
For now, I didn't say we were gonna skip it. And
What are we skipping? Board questions.
we're just gonna, we're not,
Right there.
there are resolutions number 5 through 11. Do any of you have any questions or comments on those resolutions? Elementary best show, secondary best show, superintendent's video work exhibit. Do we go to that next week?
It'll be next month, yes, sir.
That's where we have it over here. We're gonna go visit it.
We will, those will be set up in the Capitol again. We're gonna, actually, Mr. Meadows is here. And I know he's here to answer any questions. And I know the afternoon now is a little different for all of us, but we, so he's expanded actually this year. So next month and the month after, on those Thursdays, we'll have performers upstairs. Come on up, Andy, please. And so we'll break to do that. We'll also have the visual arts posted in the old,
So we're gonna,
Capitol, in the old Supreme Court chamber, Supreme Court library, and we'll do that, have some time for that. And I don't know, you and I have talked, but we've not talked recently about the awards presentation, how we're gonna do that this year.
Yeah, so what we're doing, the adjudication, the work's gonna be coming in next week. The adjudication will happen on the 25th. School systems will be notified on the 31st. The secondary exhibition will go up on the first Friday of February. It will be up for 3 weeks. The following week, it will be taken down. Then the elementary will be put up during the month of March. Yep, the resolutions that you're looking at today are going to be read at the board meeting. There will be no one present for those resolutions, but they have to be approved because we will meet the day before the March meeting for the awards at the Alabama Shakespeare Festival, where the resolutions and the students will formally be recognized. And then we also have Capital Tunes. We just finished the poster yesterday. I'm sending that to Nora to send to y'all via electronic mail. We're having the posters printed for Capital Tunes. And we have added, we're gonna try something, Capital Moves. So we're gonna have dancers coming in. So as we try to showcase the different arts, we're bringing them in. So we'll see how that goes. And we'll have multiple schools coming in to do that.
I
So.
love that.
And they are aware that it's marble floors in both areas, and they had to adjust their dance moves to make sure that they didn't hurt themselves.
Don't have any injuries. So let's item 7 and 8. Any more comments on 7 and 8? Thank you, sir.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Nine, resolution recognition school counselor is Rebecca Johnson.
I like that one.
10, resolution proclaiming school counseling week, February 6 through 10, which will happen before we meet. they
We meet during that week. During
Yeah.
that week.
Anyway, and then the next one, resolution proclaiming 128 is Alabama Career and Tech. All right, anybody wants to comment on any of those things? All right, let's go back to,
And if I may, with one comment, was doing those, there was some talk, in the past, like we've done Career Tech Month, we passed the resolution the month before the month. And I know the month will already be like 9 days in before, but they felt like it brought more attention to it for the board to pass the resolution during the actual month than to do it the month before. And so that's why we reorganized those just a little bit this year.
all right, going back up to item 3, intent to administrative code. Did you say we were going to do that today? Or we
Yes, that'd be fine. So this is a, number 3, excuse me. So this takes from last month's discussion, about the alternate teacher organizations. And if you remember, the last remaining objection from many of the deans was that the faculty requirement would be higher for the colleges of ed than for the alternate teacher organization. So we agreed, and y'all agreed to post it that way this morning, the intent to approve a code for alternate teacher organizations that doesn't have that faculty requirement in it. We'll come back now, and this would be a proposal to remove the faculty requirement from our schools under the administrative code as long as they have CAPE accreditation. If they have CAPE accreditation, they would not have to meet the additional faculty requirement, and that brings parity between those two. Not sure what that was.
In my district, sorry.
Severe thunderstorm warning.
I don't, other than that, Ms. Harris may be here somewhere. She's working on.
The specific change, is just on page 260, but I had to include the whole, rule. So page 260, item number F1, and that's the only change that was made.
Did you say F?
F1, yes.
Thank you.
It just says if the EPP is CAPE accredited, the faculty qualifications outlined in all those sections are not applicable.
All right, any other discussion on item 3, because that will be on the board agenda for the initial presentation. Item 4, I've gotten communication and I've responded to several of y'all from Ryan Hollingsworth and Vince Wilson. Pardon?
Vic. He was here.
I think his name.
He did. He had another meeting at 1 o'clock and apologized that he wouldn't be able to come back, but.
Both of those individuals asked for us to take modification, and I would assume if we do modification, we probably just need to put this on the table. Anybody make a suggestion that we put it on the table?
Let's put it on the table.
Ms. Belinda, without objection, we put that on the table, and
Well, have we voted on it yet?
We-
We don't really have to, we can just delay it.
Right. You
That's
just,
what I'm saying.
Technically.
I don't wanna just do it by myself, I wanna do it.
Well, we don't really need to vote because it gives them more
No,
flexibility.
I said, unless you object, you wanna discuss it now.
Yeah,
we
we'll just pull it from the agenda, because the table.
So it will not be on the agenda then for February.
It will be on our work, maybe back on our work agenda, we'll have to see. All right? That takes care of most of the agenda items except for board questions. Now, we had a presentation that Connor worked hard on about school choice. But in our discussion, my discussion with Dr. Mackey, until we have some more definitive, going with what Mr. Baker said, bills are responding to, we'll perhaps put that off, if you don't mind, Connor. Because I know you've done a fantastic job,
Well, I appreciate it.
as you always do.
Very honored. Well, as you said, he's done a good job and he's done all the research. So if a bill is filed, then he's gonna know the subject really well and we can do something. And again, if it's a briefing session, you can't deliberate on it. But if it's a briefing session, we could even do a WebEx. Like if something gets filed and you wanna not wait to the next meeting day, but just get an update, he can do that. By WebEx, we just can't deliberate on it.
And that was my question last month, was really more, what's out there, what's being proposed in other states, what's being discussed as from a policy level that other people are discussing, more like a brief of, you know, what others might be, not specific to Alabama necessarily.
Yes, ma'am. And he's done that research for other states, so.
Yes.
He also has a folder that y'all can take.
Yeah, I do. It's some general, like, informational reading material that y'all want to read over it.
Would be
What if we,
It's mostly published by the National Conference of State Legislatures.
And
So this is a resource that legislators look at.
Thank you so much.
That's exactly what
And
I
I
was
will
asking.
say that
Thank you.
some of the numbers in it might be a little
Thank you.
outdated, but the information's still good. It all means the same thing.
Much of my conversation reflects the same thing as Mr. Baker says. There's nothing really to discuss until we see it, and they all tell me what a bad situation last year's bill was. And as we know, Ms. Meadows didn't get reelected, and Mr. Marsh is not there anymore, so it's a whole new universe. Board questions. I will recognize Dr. McCarty.
And I didn't even raise my hand, but you did.
I said out of respect, since this is your last board question session.
Thank you, thank you. Well, want to brag on Dr. Mackey. I had a question about allokids, because I had gotten some negative feedback from the field about how labor intense, and no feedback with that assessment. And Dr. Mackey, thank you so much for clarifying that it's not mandatory, that they do not have to do it. It's there for them if they choose to do it, which is wonderful, but they aren't required to do it. So thank you for that clarification. Let's see what else.
Can I piggyback on the allocates, so I don't have to come up with a second?
If she give you permission,
She did.
it's her
I did.
time.
When is allocates back up for review, or the
so
contract?
it's
When-
actually this year, and we're currently taking, so, just a review on that. So, there's a continuum. There's another assessment called GOLD,
GOLD?
GOLD, which is required for all the pre-K, first class pre-K units. Gold and Allokids are a continuum, and so the actual Allokids is a, when we got it, it was a partnership between us, DHR, and early childhood. It came from early childhood, so they did the original vetting and setting all that up. And Dr. Cooper asked me sometime before Christmas, you know, it's got to come up in 23, later in 23, the summer, I think, and whether we and DHR were going to be able to continue to help support it. It was originally a three-way split between our department, early childhood, and DHR, and then that was kind of a pilot stage. Then as it continued, the governor gave money out of the ESSER funds to continue it. But those funds run out this year. And so it would have to come back to the three departments splitting it. Our plan was that we could do our third, but to keep, you know, most of the schools do use it. We would keep kind of the same status we have. Probably if our schools don't use it, they need some sort of assessment for first graders. We're still discussing that, because the reason first class pre-K in the Department of Early Childhood, which you know is a cabinet level position, it's not, they're kind of our equivalent, obviously, but they're much, much, much smaller, because they only deal with one, subset of kids, and we've got the whole pre-K 12. So they really want schools to use it so that they can get this growth continuum from the gold to the allocates, because they're linked. So there is ongoing discussion with some of those elementary principals, but since the last meeting, I talked to ARI, they are hearing some concerns in pockets across the state. So we're gonna keep looking at it. We have not signed another contract. I don't think, do we even hold it, or is early childhood hold it?
We held the last.
We held the last one, because it was ESSER funds. So when they used ESSER funds, and we're the keeper of the ESSER funds, even though it was out of the governor's share of the ESSER funds, it became ours. So it's not clear even, we're still negotiating on that. But I'll keep you up to date on it. We need some more feedback from the field. And the last I knew, we had not gotten any word from DHR about whether they were. And I'm saying they're not interested in continuing it. I just hadn't heard if they're interested in continuing the partnership and the split, now that it would have to come back to the agencies paying for it. It is a very, it's not just a reading assessment, because it has things, I think, like standing on one leg, and it's a balance, and there's lots of issues in there. Can you catch a ball? And those are good things to let parents know about. I mean, that's nothing. It's an excellent assessment, but it does take time. It's a little easier to do it in pre-K, and this is what we've heard once, because remember, we limit pre-K classes to either 14 or 16 students. I can't remember the number, but they're slightly smaller than kindergarten classes. But more importantly, we have an assistant teacher, or what the law calls an auxiliary teacher, in every one of those pre-K classes. So if you have 16 students but 2 adults, then that's 8 children per adult. Whereas most of our kindergarten classes have like 20 students per adult. And so even if they're a small kindergarten class and they're like 18, there's a big difference in 18 and 8. And so that's one of the real concerns, is that one kindergarten teacher is, now we've not heard, it may be different in some places, we've not heard anybody that says they don't think it's valuable. It's just that one person is doing what in a pre-K class 2 people are doing for fewer students. And it's just so time intensive. So still ongoing discussions on that. And I have asked Ms. Short to keep collecting information for us, so we can, by probably March, we're going to have to make some kind of decision about going forward. But this would be the year we have to make that decision. And we'll have to obviously get with early childhood and DHR before anything final.
And Dr. Mackey, another concern that I heard was the teachers didn't get feedback. Like, they would turn in the assessment results for the children, but they never heard anything back. And so
the way it's designed, it's not a teacher feedback assessment. It's the teachers giving parents feedback on their children. So unlike, say, our formative assessments or our ACAP assessment, we give an assessment, it goes off, and the teacher gets a report back, and the parent gets a report back. In this case, it is actually the teacher assessing the child and giving that report to the parent. So there's really nothing for the teacher to get back, because the teacher's the one that did the assessment. Now, there is statewide data, and I've asked to look at that. I mean, we don't get that data, because again, it's early childhood is getting the reports. I'm not saying we can't get them. So I've asked Bonnie, we need to look at that. So what a teacher could possibly get is say, okay, I've evaluated all my kids, so I know where they are. Now I want to compare them with the average of other kids in the state and see if my kids can stand on one leg longer or shorter than that. But there's not like a report for them to get back, because the whole purpose is for them to make a report to parents. But they take this, early childhood takes this statewide data to assess the pre-K program. There is clear evidence that kids who go through a pre-K program, this won't surprise anybody, are better at all those skills than students who don't go through a pre-K program. So it has verified that students who go through pre-K, even skills like balance and manipulating the ball, those kind of things, students who go through pre-K are better at those things than students who don't. I'm sure there's some causal relationship in that. We probably don't want to get too deep into research, but some of that is also that, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, but the parents who take the initiative to get their children in the lottery and enroll them in pre-K are probably also doing more of those kind of skills, playing ball and things with their children than the children that might not get any pre-K at all. So I'm not dissing pre-K. I'm sure there's some strength there, but there's also some measure of, those which children's parents choose to do pre-K.
And Dr. Mackey, there's things, I know y'all have talked about it, I think, in the literacy task force, and Bonnie, I think she's upstairs working, but the issue of sufficiency and proficiency. And do we send out some sort of guide or communicate in some way with the parents of the children how we define sufficient and proficient? And then what that score, how the scores might differ between sufficient and proficient.
Yes, but I can't really talk that much about it.
Could
But
you
do that, yeah, we'll,
let us know?
look, Bonnie, they are working on those textbooks up there, but that's one we'll jot that down.
And also
And
the
remember, we
time.
only do sufficiency, that's one grade, because that is tied to the Literacy Act. Otherwise, we measure in 3 or 4 levels, levels 1, 2, 3, 4. 3 and 4 are what we consider proficient. 2, I can't remember the words for 1 and 2. 1 is essentially behind where they should be. 2 is behind, but not so far behind. But 3, and of course it depends. In those levels, there's certainly a difference. When we dig further down, there's a difference in a 1.96 and a 1.4, and there's a difference in a 2.1 and 2.8. So that 2.8 really is close to being proficient. That 2.1 is closer to being non-proficient. So we look at those. But now sufficiency is just a technical term for grade level, which is that bare minimum that we've talked about many times, I know. But we don't give that in every grade. That is only for 3rd grade. And next year, of course, is when that will become very important in every 3rd grade parent's life, because next year the retention piece will kick in for the 23-24 school year. So we're about 13 months away from that testing cycle, starting 14 months away.
I just think as long as we communicate with the parents and that they know, because I was confused, so I can certainly understand why a parent might be confused about something like that. And then another question, I know a lot of these have to do with reading, but I keep hearing that the 3 queuing system is not, in fact, could actually be detrimental for teaching students how to read. Can you explain what is the 3 queuing system?
Ooh, can I explain the 3 queuing system?
And have we eliminated it from our schools if it's not effective?
Okay. So the 3 queuing system is that's not a technical term. It
I'm
comes
sorry.
That's fine. That's what they call it. It's because 3 queuing system. Actually, that's become kind of faddish to say. I had never heard it called the 3 queuing system until this past fall. But it is. That's what people are saying.
Well, Bart said, I thought it was queuing, like queuing up in line or something, and that's not.
Yeah, it's become kind of faddish to say that, but it is a queuing system. So a queue system is, give you an example. Let's say that you're reading. If I'm teaching you to read, and you come across a word, and the word is, I'm going to obviously make this up, but the word is car. And you can't get the word car. And so a cue would be, well, what pictures are on the page? Well, there's a picture of a car. Well, this word you can't get starts with the what sound? K. Well, what do you see? Is there a picture on the page that might be the word that's associated with that. That's called a cue. There are 3 of those. That's one. Visual is one of them. And so it's a system that was developed decades ago to help kids who had profound reading disabilities and processing what we would what we would now call dyslexia. Now, a lot of people are going to comment on my description of this because I'm not a reading professor, but to help students make out words. One of the real problems with the cueing system is that, let's say a student says that picture is a truck, and they don't use the word car, they use the word truck, then they usually get credit and move on. Well, they've not learned to read the word car at all because the word doesn't even have, it has a C in it, but not in the same place, doesn't it? So the word is car. So what we teach through the science of reading is that students must learn to associate each letter with a sound, phoneme, so R, and how to put those together. So the cueing system is something we do not want teachers using. It was very, very popular in the 80s and early 90s. That was where the National Reading Panel report, 1997-98, came out and said the cueing system is not a good way to teach kids to read. You need to quit using it. Alabama Reading Initiative was built on the National Reading Panel report, and we said, zip, no cueing system. And that's one part of what we're doing with Barksdale, because there are still some textbooks, college textbooks and things out there that use it. There are still some textbooks that use it in primary school. The Literacy Act, so here's where this is going to get really complicated in a minute, because y'all as a state board obviously can and do review textbooks. Remember, for K-3 reading, we had 2 options. We decided we gave the reviews to the counties and cities and told them to choose, but we didn't, and they're reassessing right now upstairs those textbooks. But we do have districts that did not buy anything on the state list because state law says that they don't have to. As long as they go through the process of the board appointing a local textbook committee, and if that textbook committee wants to purchase something else, they're allowed to do it. We do have districts that bought systems that have the cueing system in them. They're not, now, we're being very conscious with the lowest performing schools to tell them you have to use approved assessments. I will tell you, the ones I know that are still using the cueing system are very wealthy, high-performing districts. And you may say, well, how are their kids high-performing? Well, y'all know, those students are getting lots of help learning to read outside of the primer that we give them and the instruction the teacher gives. So that's where the whole balanced literacy, whole language approach comes in. But anyway, there are 2 states. You didn't ask for this, but you asked the question, so keep droning on.
I'm learning.
So there are 2 states, Arkansas and Louisiana, that have passed legislative laws saying you cannot use our state money to buy products that use the cueing system as their primary means of instruction. Now, I've talked to the state chiefs in both those states. It is obviously much more difficult to enforce than it is to just pass a law, because most of those materials, they don't use only the cueing system. They also teach some phonics and phonemic awareness, and so they may end up in multiple. But that's why we rely on our literacy task force to go through. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Ziegler because she's been 2 days into this. Did I get at least a B on that?
I might give you a B+. But what really concerns me is that the publishing companies have embraced, and I cannot tell you who we were vetting and all that, that's, not yet to be released. But it's amazing how these publishing companies put in enough, they use the verbiage, this goes right in with your standards and your science of reading. And you're looking through it, you go, this is not the science of reading. They're using those buzzwords, or they're putting just enough in to make one think, oh, well, this is close enough. No, that's why when we vet something, we go deeply, deeply into it, because we're not going to allow, something to get forward that our kids deserve. The science of the reading is the gold standard. It's working. We know that from years ago when we implemented fidelity with ARI. And that's what's going to be moving our kids forward. And I have to say, and I am not a believer in government, big government stuff. I believe in local control. But I think we need to be cautious that some schools choose to use, now, the higher level schools, if it's working and their kids are going well, but for them to be using something that is not embraced with the science of reading.
And they, to be fair to those schools, the ones I've talked to, and I've talked to the superintendents, that they, I won't say I've talked to all of them because I don't know everybody's materials, but most of them have multiple materials.
Right.
So yes, they've bought something that uses the queuing system, but they've also bought something else, and they say, well, our teachers are not just using that, they're using that for this, they're using this one for teaching phonics, they're using this one for spelling, and we put all that together. And my concern that I've said, and I've said it out loud in front of superintendents at the conferences, I get that, and if you're a super teacher with experience and you've got time to plan, you can take from 3 or 4 books and you can plan great lessons and be a phenomenal reading teacher, and that's just one of the materials you have. But if you're a first year teacher or a fairly inexperienced teacher, or maybe you're used to teaching a different subject and you get put into teaching reading all of a sudden, and you're relying on, I'm going to go pick up that book and use this book in the teacher's edition to teach children to read. And if the primary system's the queuing system, we know there are students in there that are most likely not going to learn to read. So that's why we're doing letters training. I tell you that the two the Literacy Task Force approved before, which is Amplify and Open Court, do not include the queuing system.
No, and
They
really,
do not. And they're doing others. I don't want to say they're the only 2 possible curriculum. There are others being reviewed.
And the reality is that it's market driven like anything else.
Correct.
And if we, usually in the past, pre the first ARI, they would look at Alabama and we would get the dregs because they were focused solely, as you all know, on Texas and California and some of the other states. But having conversations with the state school superintendent of Missouri and some other states where they're actually looking at this, the focus, because they've been helped and so have been, and what I'm talking about, in the Dakotas, both states are looking at what we're doing. But the bottom line is that if you want to drive out those textbooks that our teachers may actually select, then you start at the marketplace. And that's how we did it before, and that's how they'll do it again. So really, it's just one of those issues that you can't control other than like you normally do, because we live in a capitalist society, which is good, It's market driven, and that's really the only answer. If we don't demand it here, then we're more than likely not receive them among those textbooks that are even at the local level up for approval.
A huge percentage, I'm going to say over 90% of our school districts, because we do have the list, chose one of the 2 systems that we know does not include the queuing system.
Right.
So, but now, sorry, Ms. McCray, we'll come right back to you, but I do want to say this, it's also about, so let's say I have a book that doesn't use the queuing system. Well, I still am going to teach reading from other books and, have a set of classroom readers or whatever. So if that teacher was trained in the queuing system, then he or she may still say, well, let's look at the pictures for context clues and those kind of things. Context and pictures. I forget what the third one is. I'll come up in a minute. But So that's why letters is important, because it's not just about the materials, it's about those teachers knowing what is the most constructive way to teach reading. And that's also why level 2 and 3 intervention are important, because when you have those students who are not learning to read through the regular instruction, you have to get them in tier 2 intervention, and then the more serious ones in tier 3 intervention, and that is intensive extra instruction in basically the science of reading, that to teach them that, to make those connections in their head. So it's about all these pieces fitting together, and it's all the states are having these discussions. There are many states that have followed our lead now and that are adopting letters statewide. We just have to use this analogy we used multiple times this morning, keep our foot on the gas about this too.
I had systems who did not like some of the material from one of those companies, and it had to do with teaching religion. I believe it was in the first grade. In the first grade, I got a lot of complaints about that, and several of them told me, I don't like either of these companies, and so we're just going to stay with what we have because our scores are good, and we think that we can keep them good using our old books. But there was one page that parents got all, or not
Yes.
parents.
One story. Yes.
One thing they got all upset about and said that we are not going to order from this company, even though it meets all the.
So one of the things that's going on, and this will come back to you. Oh, here comes Bonnie Short. And I'll see what she gives me.
No, we're not in favor
So-
of the free queuing system.
We do. But wait, come on up, Bonnie. But let me address. I know you were listening, but you didn't hear Ms. McCrae's question. So one of the things that the Literacy Task Force is doing right now, they are re-reviewing. We did get complaints about one vendor. We certainly won't name the vendor, but that vendor has done a couple of things. One, they have given some workarounds about if that story is not good for your community, because they're selling across the country, how to pull that, but make sure that you still teach all the standards that might have been connected there. And possibly, I don't want to speak for the vendor, and this is where Jason's about to come over here and sock me, but we are in discussions with them, they're in discussions with other states too, about maybe changing some of those pages out, some of those stories, and they have some. So, you update books and all, so they are working on those materials. I'm not going to promise that everything anybody finds any objection to is being replaced or changed or something, but we have made them aware of our concerns at the highest levels. Okay, Ms. Short. We're talking obviously about the queuing system.
Questions, I
That's
just
okay,
heard
Ms. Short.
three queuing systems.
He's done a better job than he thinks he did. He did a good job. Any other questions, Ms. McCarty?
Yes. Do we know, and if you don't right now, that's fine, you can send it to us later, but we were talking about letters training and how valuable that is. Do we have a sense of the percentage of K-3 teachers who've been trained in letters?
I have the number of courses in my head of how many have been activated. When we're looking at K-3 teachers, we're looking at approximately 22,000 teachers, and we have about 18,000 courses that have been activated. Now, that doesn't mean 18,000 teachers have activated those courses, because you have certain individuals who've taken multiple courses. But it is moving along very well with regard to it, and we're actually looking at adding more opportunities for not just K-3 teachers, but hopefully for those beyond.
Do we offer it for special ed teachers?
Yes, and special ed has been in the trajectory from the very beginning. They didn't always know they were in the trajectory, because sometimes they feel like when we say K-3, we're not talking about them.
Correct.
But anybody who has direct influence with K-3, I can justify very easily that they're supporting what we're needing to accomplish with the Literacy Act. It's people who are outside of that K-3 trajectory that we need to look differently about. So the institutions of higher ed who impact foundational learning, they can come and take letters in that K-3 area. with regard to what we've done, special ed, K-3 teachers, administrators who impact K-3, including in the central office. We want all of those people to come in and take it. When we opened it up and we had some ESSER funds, and we were able to allow anybody who was interested in that. So when you look at a high school teacher who may be teaching children with foundational reading, they could still contribute to that.
Dr. Mackey just had to step out and just ask me to come up to keep it flowing until he's able to come back.
It's always nice to have an extra person.
Yes.
Well, Bonnie, thank you so much for that. That's outstanding progress that our teachers, that 18,000, and I know some of them have taken multiple,
yes.
but still, that sounds like they have embraced it. They are getting that core knowledge that, some of them graduated from college a long time ago. Maybe we were teaching things differently, so now they're going back and getting what they need to best help our students. The task force, I think, voted maybe 2-3 years ago to change the reading assessment in college from the praxis exam to the foundations of reading test. And how have the students performed? I'm not sure how many
I've
semesters.
received no data concerning what the college students are doing because they just activated. It's
been
been
recent.
official September.
I was gonna say in the fall, it just,
So
they
did
just
they
began
take
in
it
the
at the
fall.
end of the semester?
So there was that transition.
Whenever they
period.
needed it, whenever they had completed all requirements and only needed to take that test. So the data perhaps is not available at this time.
It's early on for that data collection.
Darn.
But it's been really
Early
fun. It's been really fun to listen to a lot of the professors
Mm-hmm.
and the deans that have reached out to our department to ask for more information and to see how, we can work together and, when we're all talking the same language, it's gonna be a better fit.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you.
And Dr. McCarty, they're even out training different colleges and universities. Because I know they came and trained us in the foundations of reading. It's been very helpful.
Is it very different than the praxis?
Well,
The
when you look
content?
at the phonics, the fluency, the terminology is a little different. So I think it's gonna help us get better aligned to the practice.
I think so.
Okay.
Did y'all see or notice the podcast? I'm about halfway through, but it is fascinating and I'm gonna finish it, Sold a Story.
Oh my God, it rips your heart out. That one young man.
Called Sold a Story. SSA tagged it at the end of their newsletter. So I just had some time and jumped in and listened, and like I said, I'm almost finished. I think there's 7 episodes.
It finished when we were out at Excel and Ed. Dr.
Okay.
Mackey, Dr. Reynolds, when we made the
Totally
trip
worth,
there.
totally
And
worth
Emily
your time to listen. It's an education reporter that took sold a story. So it helped answer some questions that I had from past.
It's
Emily
very
Hanford
outstanding.
is the author of that.
That's right.
And she has some other pieces that are available that are very quick reads or quick videos that are always great to grab onto.
Can you send that to us, Barney?
Absolutely.
That'd be great. To all of us, please.
It was super, and I just
Yeah,
got
I
it
love
last
that one. I
week.
didn't realize she had some more, so that'd be great.
Other questions?
Are they behaving upstairs?
Dr.
I have-
McCarty, you have other questions?
I think she does.
No, I'm done.
Do you have
So
other
they're
questions?
Well, I've got one more.
Bonnie,
Are
one
you
more
ready?
question.
One more question. The CALTs or CALTs. I've been
Well,
reprimanded by saying it
That's right.
incorrectly. So I'll say CALT. How I know we had offered some scholarships and that there was some of the requirements. I think they had to have completed a master's before they did this. Have we had more success? Have more people shown interest in pursuing that? Because I know that's like beyond, once you finish letters, then you perhaps would want to pursue that. So
And some pursue that before letters, and, it's looking at interventions. It's a certified academic language therapist,
and then
is what it is. There's another opportunity that's under that called a certified academic language practitioner. And so, both of those individuals get extensive training on intervention and how to implement it. The therapists have more hours that they have to perform in providing therapy or the interventions, practicing that information. Right now, we're working on a memorandum that will go out concerning the next opportunities of those certified academic language therapists. The MSLE training is what we call it. We're also looking to see how can we better fill the spaces, because up to this point, we have not filled all of the opportunities. So we've been trying to market that better. We have, at the upcoming curriculum and instruction meeting, we have a breakout session that will take place where the curriculum directors can take part and learn more about that. We're also providing bite-sized PD. So knowledge is power. We've got to get the knowledge out there. People don't know or understand what it is. They may not be willing to jump on the opportunity.
Thank you for that. And then my last question, Dr. Reynolds, is just that timeline for the Numeracy Act. I think we were supposed to get that before we left. And so if we could just, and if we have to get it by, electronically, that's fine too, but just as long as we get it. Thank you. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you for all the work you do.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
I will email that.
Other questions?
Thank you. I didn't know you were behind me. You're so quiet.
If you have a question.
Two questions. Any other questions?
Just very briefly, Ms. Martin, I just wanted to make it known, I had asked Ms. Martin, we know we had the 38 schools that have come off of the failing schools list.
Yes.
What was being in place to continue working with them? So I think she hears me.
I'm sorry.
I was sharing with them, I had asked them about the 38 schools that had come off of the failing schools list, and basically what we were doing to continue supporting them. And I think, in asking Dr. Mackey, he said that you and Dr. Shields would have an update for us next month.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just wanted to say that.
Definitely, because we're not just turning them loose, there's a
Because
sustained
a lot of
process.
times when you turn them loose and say they're off the list, they don't continue working.
Yes,
So,
ma'am, absolutely.
thank you.
And we're getting that copy for you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not in charge. I'm sorry. She asked him a question and I said, yes, you may. I'm sorry. Where I was. Forgive me. Please.
I love it.
Ma'am, you're recognized.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. I was waiting until after the 16th to email the board with instructions, itinerary, all those sorts of things, because there are other emails that are coming in and it's easy to have things confused. So I'll be sending you some information, sending everyone some information next week about the retreat. Just wanted to let you know that it's quiet because we don't need any more confusion. Thank you. You're welcome.
Did you have any questions?
No, I
Dr.
don't.
Richard?
No, I'm through. Thank you.
Tracy's not good. And if you, I remembered one thing, if you have any dietary specific things that you might be allergic to, we just need to know that.
Thank you very much. We have made an opportunity for us to have our data electronically, not just in paper. And I know Ms. Bell said she continued to want her to have hers in paper. And there was some question of whether we were still required to have a paper copy if you want to have it electronically. And Ms. Thornton mentioned that to me, and unless somebody really objects, I don't need to kill any more trees. The assembly works great for me, especially since Ms. West taught me how to get up what I needed. So what is the thought of each individual about, I know Ms. Bell has expressed her desire to get it in writing, and she will always.
I'll take it both ways. The reason why is I just like to make notes, and it's easier. And if something happens to I don't think it will, but online, at least to have a backup. And I appreciate it. I appreciate receiving the actual paper copies.
Just a matter of whether we want Nora to produce 2 documents with me. She doesn't have to. Each one of us can make that determination, and that will help her decide how many of those big books she has to tote around. That's a southern term, tote around. How many trees you want to kill. But I thought we agreed some of us wanted to go to electronic, and I know it was Dr. Chestnut's, I first saw her using it all the time and I learned from Ms. West. And so it depends on you, just let her know what you want. I do not need the books anymore.
Miss Norris sort of spoke to us when she first came in, so the few of us that were here earlier.
And I thank you for carrying them around.
Yes.
I'm just keeping the paper company and so forth in business, since we have a big one around my district.
That's right.
Your district's have enough paper companies all over the place. All right, are there any other comments or additions? Once again, next month, we will see a new board member. We will certainly miss you and
Oh, thank
your
you.
certificate as
I'll
well.
miss you.
At least it's a modest contribution for your high salary that you're gonna lose.
Now, when are you going to Brazil?
Oh, Argentina.
Argentina, sorry.
You
Spring
gonna come
break.
back or just one way?
No, she's coming back.
All right.
I'll come back. Yes,
She's still teaching.
so I'll be there
Without
for the spring break.
objection, we are adjourned.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Everybody be careful driving.
Yes, please be careful.
Yes, yes, yes.
Madam,
See you on
Sunday.
Sunday.
You going to
Let me tell you, I'll be here Sunday though. We have a plan.